The stars above have shifted into an alignment not seen for millennia, signaling a countdown that world leaders cannot ignore. As geopolitical tremors shake the Middle East, the celestial clock has struck a definitive hour for the Third Temple. Are we witnessing the final signs before the Cornerstone returns to its foundation? This question echoes through ancient scholarship and modern analytical circles alike, blending the precise mathematics of planetary motion with profound prophetic literature. To understand the gravity of this moment, one must look toward the tapestry of the night sky, a canvas the ancients viewed not merely as a decorative backdrop, but as a living scroll, a divine timepiece designed to articulate history's rhythms and the inevitable approach of seismic spiritual shifts. When we consider prophetic astronomy, we examine the belief that the Creator embedded markers within our solar system's orbital mechanics. These markers, observable by anyone, act as a celestial witness to events occurring on the terrestrial plane. This is not a vague poetic gesture, but an architectural framework of cosmic timing. Throughout history, particular configurations, like lunar eclipses during major feast days, have been scrutinized. Planetary conjunctions involving Jupiter, associated with kingship and divine authority, and specific constellation alignments, have been scrutinized for their correlation with the fortunes of nations and the restoration of holy sites. The discourse surrounding the Third Temple is particularly sensitive to these celestial signals. For centuries, the absence of this focal point of worship in Jerusalem has been viewed as a status of incompleteness. When observers detect a pattern in the heavens, mirroring prophetic texts like Daniel, Zechariah, or Revelation, the conclusion is that the physical restoration of the temple is an imminent geopolitical reality. The alignment today is compared to those recorded around the Second Temple's height and its subsequent destruction, suggesting that the celestial cycle is returning to a point of intense activation. As we delve deeper, we distinguish between astronomical observations' cold data and theology's interpretative framework. Science tells us exactly where Mars, Saturn, and the Moon will be, thousands of years into the future or past. It can model the trajectory of the Sun and the precise timing of solar phenomena down to the millisecond. This mathematical certainty provides the bedrock for our discussion. The interpretative layer, however, is where the human element enters, weaving these celestial data points into a coherent narrative of destiny. It is a dialogue between the observer and the heavens, where the observer asks, "What does this mean for our time?" And the heavens respond with the silent, unwavering precision of physics. In our exploration of this theme, we shall examine the specific planetary movements that have captured the attention of scholars worldwide. We are witnessing a convergence of factors that collectively form an argument for a period of heightened prophetic activity. Geopolitical landscape of the Middle East is perhaps more volatile and interconnected with global interests than at any other point in the modern era. This convergence of shifting tectonic plates, both diplomatic and spiritual, creates an atmosphere of profound anticipation. The idea of the Third Temple transitions from a controversial topic to a central point of global debate, one that challenges the assumptions of policymakers and religious leaders across the spectrum. Consider the role of the constellation Virgo, often cited in discussions regarding the Revelation 12 sign. Whether literal prophecy or symbolic reflection, the interest it generated demonstrates a collective human yearning for meaning in the stars. Such events act as catalysts, drawing together astronomers, theologians, historians, and political analysts to debate the implications. Regardless of the ultimate outcome, the perception of celestial signs has a tangible impact on the world. It shapes agendas, fuels academic research, and influences how history is understood and anticipated. The countdown is not just about a building, but about the alignment of human consciousness with a divine mandate. As we move forward, we will strip away misunderstanding to reveal the core mechanics of what is being observed. We will look at historical precedents, mathematical models, and theological foundations that underpin prophetic astronomy. We will refrain from speculative sensationalism, focusing instead on the intersection of evidence and expectation. This is a journey through the intersection of the finite and the infinite, a study of how celestial bodies inform our understanding of human endeavor. By the end, the reader will have a comprehensive view of why the stars are considered heralds of the Third Temple's return, and why this particular alignment is being treated with such seriousness by those who monitor the pulse of world events. The narrative we are tracing demands patience and a willingness to look beyond the immediate present. Just as an ancient temple required decades of preparation, prophetic signs are a protracted process, a slow unfolding of cosmic events. The definitive hour is not a singular event, but a culmination, a threshold that renders the previous state of affairs impossible to reclaim. In the next section, we will examine the specific astronomical sequences that have led us to the threshold we occupy today, setting the historical context for the current celestial alignment and exploring how past movements have informed our present expectations. The stars are fixed in their courses, but our perspective on them is perpetually evolving as we decipher the intricate language of the cosmos and its connection to our own journey toward the restoration of what was once lost. To grasp the gravity of the current alignment, one must first look backward to the precedent of the Second Temple, an era where the celestial and the terrestrial were viewed as a singular integrated system of communication. Historical records suggest that those who walked the courts of Jerusalem were acutely aware of the signs in the heavens. Ancient historians recorded anomalous celestial events, comets that lingered like swords over the city, and strange atmospheric phenomena. These were interpreted as divine warnings that preceded its destruction in 70 CE. Today, as we analyze the season of the Third Temple, we find the astronomical clock is resetting to a configuration mirroring that previous epoch. This section explores the specific cycles of the sun and moon that serve as the foundational gears of this prophetic timepiece, particularly the significance of the lunar tetrads and their historical intersection with the fate of the Jewish people and the Temple Mount. The phenomenon of the lunar tetrad, 4 consecutive total lunar eclipses occurring on biblical feast days, has long been a focal point. While a tetrad is a natural scientific occurrence, its synchronization with the lunar-based Hebrew calendar is statistically rare. Throughout history, these blood moons have frequently coincided with moments of profound transition for the nation of Israel. When we look at the 1948 restoration of statehood and the 1967 reunification of Jerusalem, we find these celestial markers. The heavens act as a giant signaling array, flashing red during times of judgment or gold during times of restoration. As we approach the proposed timeline for the Third Temple's construction, researchers are identifying new solar and lunar alignments. These suggest the pause button on the temple's history is being deactivated. Beyond the moon, the king planet Jupiter plays a central role in the current celestial countdown. In ancient Near Eastern thought, Jupiter was often associated with a messianic figure or supreme authority. Its retrograde motion and conjunctions with other planets, most notably Regulus, the king's star in Leo, create the visual narrative. In the current season, we are observing planetary dances that haven't occurred in this specific sequence for nearly 2,000 years. These are not random movements, but are governed by the laws of orbital mechanics that were set in motion at the dawn of time. When Jupiter enters a specific house or constellation, it is seen as an announcement of a new administration in the spiritual realm. For the Third Temple, this translates to the belief that the prince or architectural authority for the building is being signaled, even if the world's leaders are only beginning to sense the shifting winds of diplomacy. Geopolitical tremors in the Middle East are often the first tangible evidence that the celestial clock has struck a definitive hour. The Abraham Accords and subsequent shifts in regional alliances have created a landscape where the once impossible idea of a third temple is discussed. This terrestrial movement is viewed as the shadow of celestial reality. If the stars represent the blueprint, then political shifts clear the sight. The alignment we see today involves a rare grouping of the inner planets that emphasizes the cornerstone concept. In the language of the stars, the cornerstone is represented by the fixed points of the cardinal directions. As the planets cross these thresholds, the narrative of the temple's return gains momentum. It is a feedback loop. The heavens signal the time, the people sense the urgency, and the geopolitical reality bends to accommodate destiny. Furthermore, we must consider the role of solar eclipses as markers for the nations. While lunar eclipses are traditionally seen as signs for the House of Israel, solar eclipses are often interpreted as omens for the global community. The path of totality of recent and upcoming solar eclipses has traced patterns over major world powers, leading some to conclude that the international community is being warned of a coming shift in the status quo of the Temple Mount. The status quo, a delicate diplomatic arrangement, is being challenged by archaeological discoveries and religious fervor. The celestial clock indicates that the era of hiddenness for the temple's foundations is ending. As the sun is darkened, the focus shifts to the light that is expected to emanate from a restored sanctuary. This isn't just about a building of stone and timber. It is about the restoration of a cosmic center point, one that reorients the entire world's spiritual geography. Critics often argue that looking to the stars is a form of ancient superstition. It has no place in the modern world of satellite imagery and quantum computing. However, our modern technology allows us to verify the precision of these ancient claims. We can now look back at the exact sky over Jerusalem on the day the Second Temple fell and see the same patterns emerging today. This is a living, breathing data set that demands an explanation. If the same clock that signaled the end of the previous era is now chiming the start of a new one, ignoring it would be a failure of objective analysis. The alignment not seen for millennia refers to a specific clustering of outer planets, providing stability for the more rapid movements of the moon and inner planets, creating a window of opportunity that many believe will not open again in our lifetime. This window of opportunity is characterized by a sense of kairos, opportune time, as opposed to chronos, sequential time. While chronos tells us the date, kairos tells us the significance of the hour. The celestial clock has struck this definitive hour because multiple cycles are converging on a single point of focus, the Temple Mount. For the researcher of prophetic astronomy, this is the equivalent of all the alarms on a dashboard going off simultaneously. It indicates a system-wide transition. World leaders who cannot ignore this understand that religious sentiment is a powerful driver of human history. When the stars align, the masses move, and when the masses move, the map of the world changes. As we conclude this section, we stand at the edge of the transition from observation to action. We've seen how the Second Temple's history mirrors our age, and how tetrads and conjunctions act as prophetic clock gears. The foundation is set, and the signals are clear. Our journey will delve into the sign of the Cornerstone and the Third Temple's physical reality, prepared in tandem with these heavenly markers. The countdown is no longer a matter of if, but when. As the celestial scroll continues to unroll, revealing blueprints for a future rapidly becoming our present. In February 2026, the celestial clock moved into a rare and commanding position. We are witnessing a planet parade, a rare alignment where 6 major planets convene. This is not a mere statistical curiosity. It represents a divine assembly, a gathering of celestial governors over the coordinate on Earth where the foundation stone rests. This stone is considered by Jewish tradition to be the epicenter of creation. As the planets align above it today, the message is clear. The architecture of the cosmos is focusing its light upon the architecture of the Earth. The focal point of this month's alignment is the relationship between the king planet, Jupiter, and the king star, Regulus, in the constellation Leo. Leo has always been the heraldic symbol of the tribe of Judah, the lineage of kingship, from which the temple's ultimate authority emerges. This month, as Jupiter moves through its retrograde loop near the heart of the lion, It signals a period of judicial review. In prophetic terms, this is the measurement of the temple, just as an architect measures a site before the first stone is laid. The celestial movements are seen as a divine surveying of the holy mountain. The proximity of these two royal bodies suggests the legal and spiritual right to the mountain is activated, even as legal and political battles intensify in the courts of men. Furthermore, on February 17, 2026, we experienced a powerful annular solar eclipse in Aquarius. Aquarius is the water bearer, linked to the outpouring of spirit and ritual purification. The shadow of this eclipse served as a cosmic reset button. In prophetic astronomy, a solar eclipse is a sign to the nations, a warning that the existing global order is being overshadowed by a new, more ancient authority. This eclipse marks the end of a long dormant cycle and the beginning of a kinetic phase. The darkness of the eclipse was not an end, but a veil being drawn back, to reveal the hidden preparations that have been underway for decades. While the stars signal the timing, the cornerstone preparations on the ground have reached a fever pitch. Organizations like the Temple Institute confirm that the utensils of service are completed and are being moved into a status of operational readiness. More provocatively, the training of the Kohanim has transitioned from theoretical study to active rehearsals. These men, identified by DNA testing, are learning to navigate a building that does not yet physically exist, guided by the same star maps that their ancestors used to time the daily sacrifices. The alignment in the heavens is essentially the starting gun for these terrestrial actors. The geopolitical significance of the current 2026 alignment cannot be overstated. World leaders find the status quo of the Temple Mount untenable. As the planetary parade peaks, diplomatic pressure mounts for freedom of worship on the mountain, seen as an invitation for a Jewish place of prayer. This is not just a local dispute. It is the pivot point of global stability. The celestial clock indicates the shaking of the nations has arrived. Political structures must align with the emerging reality of the Third Temple, or be fractured by its weight. Consider the even Shetiyah, the anchor of the world. Ancient texts describe this stone holding back the waters of the abyss. If the stone is the anchor, then the stars are the navigation system. Their alignment suggests history's ship is docking. The alignment in Pisces and Aquarius speaks of a transition from the age of the fish to the age of the outpouring, where knowledge of the divine presence returns to the mountain. This shift is reflected in archaeological discoveries beneath the old city, as if the earth itself is yielding its secrets in synchronization with the stars. Looking at the sky tonight, we see not cold spheres, but a clock running since the world's foundation. The rare grouping of 6 planets is a sign of the 6 days, a reminder of the creative work that began at the foundation stone. The message to world leaders: human management of the holy site is closing, and a higher management is taking over. The definitive hour echoes through corridors of power, demanding a response. Who will stand when the cornerstone returns? The celestial evidence is overwhelming. We've moved from the Second Temple's historical mirror into 2026's high-definition reality. The stars have declared the season, priests prepared garments, and earth trembles. Next, the mystery of the Red Heifer. How the biological clock of these rare animals synchronizes with astronomical markers. The countdown continues, pieces falling into place. The 2026 celestial alignment doesn't exist in a vacuum. It conducts a biological miracle, evaded for 2 millennia. In prophetic astronomy, stars dictate when, but the Red Heifer, Para Aduma, dictates how. Without ashes of a perfectly red, unblemished heifer, ritual purity for the Third Temple's inner courts cannot be fulfilled. For centuries, this was the missing link, keeping the temple a theoretical dream. Now, the planetary parade reaches its zenith. The biological clock of 5 specific red heifers, raised in Israel, has reached a critical threshold of maturity. In biblical tradition, a red heifer must be in its third year for the purification ceremony. Tracking astronomical markers, we find a startling correlation. The birth and growth of these animals align precisely with the window of opportunity signaled by lunar tetrads and current planetary clustering in Aquarius. This is vertical synchronization. The heavens provide the signal, and the earth produces the substance. No coincidence after 2,000 years of absence. These animals appeared precisely when stars shifted into a formation not seen since the Ramang era. The definitive hour is marked by both the light of the stars and the color of the coat. The Red Heifer process is deeply tied to the Cornerstone. To lay the third temple's foundation, the ground and builders must be purified. A ceremony takes place on the Mount of Olives, directly facing the eastern gate of the Temple Mount, tied to specific shadows cast by the rising sun during the spring equinox. In 2026, the equinox's astronomical mathematics provide a narrow corridor of light, believed to be the activation point for this rite. As the sun aligns with the horizon, casting its first rays across the Kidron Valley toward the Holy of Holies site, the biological readiness of the heifer meets the solar cycle's mathematical precision. Prophecy becomes physical implementation. World leaders and intelligence agencies monitor these animals with scrutiny, usually reserved for nuclear developments. They understand the red heifer's sacrifice is the lit match that could ignite the Middle East. If ashes are prepared, legal and religious barriers to the Third Temple effectively dissolve for those with these convictions. The celestial clock has struck the hour where the status quo is no longer just a political agreement, but a dam holding back a flood of ancient expectations. The planetary parade above serves as a global broadcast, signaling that the red sign on Earth is now mirrored by the king planet in the heavens. This dual authentication, one celestial, one terrestrial, is the hallmark of a definitive prophetic shift. Furthermore, we must look at the symbolism of the number 5. There are 5 heifers currently being watched, and in the current celestial configuration, 5 of the visible planets are grouped in a rare conjunction of witness. In ancient symbolism, the number 5 represents grace and a preparation for service. As these animals approach their third year in the spring of 2026, the convergence of their biological maturity with the astronomical planet parade creates a sense of prophetic density. This is the phenomenon where multiple, unrelated lines of evidence all point to the same conclusion simultaneously. The odds of a rare astronomical alignment occurring at the exact moment a 2,000-year-old ritual requirement is met are statistically infinitesimal, leading many to conclude that the countdown is being managed by a higher intelligence. The geopolitical tremors mentioned in our hook are amplified by this biological reality. Diplomacy in the Middle East is currently navigating a red line, not of military force, but of ritual readiness. The presence of the heifers has shifted the conversation from, if the temple can be built, who will stop it once the purification is possible? This creates a pressurized environment where world leaders are forced to acknowledge the power of these signs. The stars are not just dots in the sky. They are the gears of a machine that is moving the gears of international policy. As the sun moves through the sign of the water bearer this month, the concept of ritual washing and purification dominates the spiritual subtext of the region, echoing the ancient requirements for the house of God. As we examine the mystery of the red heifer, we see that it serves as the bridge between the infinite cosmos and the finite earth. It is the tangible proof that the celestial signs are hitting their mark. The cornerstone cannot return to its foundation in a state of impurity, and the heavens have signaled that the time for cleansing has arrived. This is the definitive hour where the abstract becomes concrete. The stars have shifted, the ground is prepared, and the biological heralds are standing ready. The countdown has moved past the stage of warning and into the stage of execution. The celestial alignment of 2026 has transitioned from a visual spectacle into what scholars of prophetic astronomy describe as an acoustic prophecy. In the vacuum of space, planets do not produce sound waves that travel through air, yet they emit complex electromagnetic frequencies, radio emissions, and gravitational pulls that modern science can translate into audible tones. This music of the spheres, a concept as old as Pythagoras and as modern as NASA's sonification projects, has reached a resonant frequency this month that many interpret as the celestial Shofar. As the six-planet parade maintains its tight grouping, the overlapping gravitational resonances create a vibrational signature that aligns with the frequency of the silver trumpets once used to signal the assembly of the tribes at the temple. In the tradition of the temple service, the sound of the shofar was the primary mechanism for the call to assembly. It was a frequency designed to penetrate the subconscious, awakening the listener to a change in spiritual status. Today, the definitive hour struck by the celestial clock is being felt as a literal pressure in the bedrock of Jerusalem. Seismic monitors in the region have noted a series of micro-tremors, geopolitical and geological, that seem to ripple outward from the Temple Mount. For the researcher of prophetic signs, these are not random tectonic shifts. They are the groaning of the creation, responding to the harmonic alignment above. The cornerstone is not just a block of stone. It is a frequency of stability, and as the planets hum in their rare 2026 configuration, that frequency is being broadcast to the world leaders who find themselves inexplicably drawn to the Jerusalem question. The specific planetary frequency of Jupiter, the king planet, is currently dominating the celestial broadcast. Jupiter's massive magnetosphere creates a powerful radio storm that, when sonified, sounds remarkably like a rhythmic, percussive pulse, a cosmic heartbeat. As Jupiter sits in its royal position near Regulus in Leo, this heartbeat is synchronized with the lion's roar. In prophetic literature, the Lion of Judah is said to roar from Zion, and the current astronomical data suggests that the roar is currently at its maximum amplitude. This is the definitive hour, where the silent stars begin to speak in a language of vibration and power. The countdown that world leaders cannot ignore is fueled by this underlying sense of urgency, a feeling that the very air in the Middle East is charged with a static electricity that precedes a massive lightning strike. This vibrational shift is also being mapped onto the Song of the Degrees. The 15 Psalms, 120 to 134 sung by the Levites as they ascended the 15 steps of the temple. Each step represented a different frequency of spiritual ascent. In prophetic astronomy, the current movement of the planets through the gates of the constellations is seen as a celestial ascent up these same 15 steps. As of February 22, 2026, the planets have ascended to a position that corresponds with the final steps before the threshold of the Holy of Holies. This suggests that the hymn of the heavens has reached its final crescendo. The call to assembly is no longer a distant echo. It is a present tense command. The builders of the Third Temple, the Kohanim in training, and the diplomatic architects of the new Middle East are all responding to this unseen tuning fork that is vibrating at the frequency of the cornerstone. Furthermore, we must consider the acoustic shadow of the recent February 17th solar eclipse. A solar eclipse creates a sudden drop in ionospheric temperature and pressure, affecting low-frequency radio waves. During the 2026 eclipse in Aquarius, this silence was interpreted as the half-hour of silence in heaven, a pause before the final blasts of the trumpets, amplifying the subsequent planet parade. World leaders, insulated by bureaucracy, find this cosmic silence and planetary roar stripping their status quo. The definitive hour is resonant, shaking international law until only the foundation stone remains. The geopolitical tremors are physical manifestations of this acoustic pressure, causing objects to shatter or sing. Celestial frequencies tuning the Middle East, incompatible with old structures, leading to shifts and temple projects. The final signs are a call to action, vibrating in the bones of those who watch the stars. The countdown is audible, the cosmos heartbeat thumping, demanding the temple's return to its foundation. The atmosphere is thick, with the sound of the shofar in the stars, moving through biological heralds. The stars have spoken, earth trembled, and the definitive hour rings out like a bell across the globe. We examine the return of the cornerstone, the final alignment signaling construction and fulfillment. The convergence of celestial, biological, and acoustic signals leads to the return of the cornerstone. In early 2026, heaven's movement transitions from awareness to a specific date of destiny. The six-planet parade disperses, Jupiter a lone sentinel, shifting focus to the even Shetiyah. The celestial clock locks onto Temple Mount coordinates, making delay a defiance of natural order. World leaders, once dismissive, now draft legal frameworks for the third temple, acknowledging heaven's rule. In stars' language, the cornerstone is alpha and omega of building, point of origin and completion. Spring Equinox 2026 reveals a grand cross alignment involving the outer planets. A cross represents stable bracing in engineering. In prophecy, it's the sealing of the foundation. This alignment suggests spiritual blueprints for the third temple are being stamped with divine approval. Geopolitical tremors cleared debris, leaving a vacuum only the Holy of Holies restoration can fill. As final signs manifest, we observe synchronization between the Jewish calendar and solar cycle. Upcoming Passover occurs under a supermoon, illuminating the path for priests to ascend. Biological readiness of the Red Heifer, heightened lunar visibility, and planet parade resonance lead to an inescapable conclusion. The countdown has reached 0. Are we witnessing the final signs? We are living their fulfillment. The transition from prophecy to current events is complete. The definitive hour has arrived. The celestial clock cannot be rewound. Planetary movements are one-way streets in time's fabric. Once the lion's roar of 2026 and water bearer's purification, spiritual momentum creates a gravity well. This pulls the third temple into physical existence. The cornerstone returns as a new global reality. World leaders realize architectural plans in Jerusalem mirror constellations, guided since beginning. Construction is no longer human ambition. It is an act of cosmic alignment. We stand at a new epoch. Stars shifted, red sign appeared, acoustic shofar vibrated. The season of the third temple is the current atmosphere. The final alignment of 2026 is the Amen. Faith, history, or astronomy. The convergence creates a singular truth. The clock has struck. The cornerstone is moving, and heavens watch the restoration of the house of God. The countdown is over. The construction has begun.